Are you nervous?
No, I don't know what I'm going to say.
I don't either. I don't have an agenda, so we kind of just the way it kind of works is I just kind of start talking, and then it just kind of goes from there.
Yep.
So, what a year, huh?
Yeah, it's been a great year.
Mm-hmm.
Lots of twists and turns, including my daughter losing a little one there beginning of June, full term, and that really was a challenging time to walk through a loss there, but many, many blessings along the way as well.
Yeah,
So,
and like we were talking about, that gave you really the opportunity to be there and really be that unstaunching support system that they needed.
yeah, yeah, for sure. And I'm just thankful work was a little bit slower right then for me, so I could focus on my family and my daughter and son-in-law, and kind of walk through that with them, and yeah, be there for them. And that's what I appreciate about the flexibility of this job too. The ebbs and flow of life, you can work around.
As long as you keep that balance.
Yes, yeah, definitely. Because there's been times where I feel out of balance, or I've really hit this job really hard. Which, when you start a new business, you do have to put a lot of effort into it. And not that I'm putting only a little effort into it now. I am working at it, but I'm trying to find some good balance between work, family, taking care of myself, those kinds of things. So,
So, what's been the biggest challenge for you about that? Because I know we've been working on it for a couple years now, and we've gotten better at it. We're making progress, but like, what causes you the biggest challenge about that balance?
oh, just sometimes concerns that the work's not going to be there, and I got to really just keep um, pressing hard. And yeah, we do have to work, but not to the sacrifice of our mental, emotional, spiritual health, marriage, whatever. And so for me, it's just trusting the process and trusting the Lord
Mm-hmm.
and His provisions. And I've seen that over and over again. Yeah, just finding that balance, resting in those kinds of things. And I have a good coach too that's been helping me the last couple of years find that balance and
Mm-hmm.
hold me accountable. So I'm thankful. Thank you for all that you have done to help me along the way.
Absolutely, it's been a pleasure working with you, and we're not done. We're still working together, but I
Yeah.
think that's been a process too, and a joy to watch. Because when we first started working, you were a totally different person than what you are now.
Yeah, lots of changes along the way for sure. I One of the things we started working on early on was for sale by owners and reaching out to people that way, and learned a lot through that. But what I think we both came to realize is that my solid business kept coming from my sphere of influence, the people that I know and I care about, and who are part of my life, and who I've built relationships with for many years in ministry as a pastor and in the community, now in the church that I'm going to as well. And so I think we both realized that where does my emphasis need to be, and where is my heart? And that is on my sphere of influence, the people that I care about and that already know me and hopefully like me and trust me as
you're
well.
you're right.
And so, I put all that effort there, but trying to like go into those areas or expireds. I haven't done much with that, but the business really mainly came from that. Honestly, even doing floor time early on, I got some business from that, but again, the business kept coming from the people that I know. So I think both of us came to realize that, hey, that's where I need to focus. That's where my joy, that's where my love really is caring for the people that I know already and people that they know, referrals, family, friends, things like that. So, and now it's been past clients as well.
Hmm.
And, either referring business, or I just got a call or a text last night from somebody I helped sell some vacant land. And hey, Jim, here's a house, wondering if we might be able to see that. Could you find out about this or that? And because they see me as their realtor.
Yep.
And I keep up those relationships. So I think a shift for me has been just to stay focused on the people in my life that I care about, and that I know and that know me, and taking care of them. So that's kind of one maybe shift for me along the way, and then just lots of other experience and skill development in how I go about getting listings, and as far as people who reach out to me from my sphere, and just the whole process of securing that listing, helping them understand how to properly price a home, and the strategy behind that, and all of that, and also hiring a professional photographer.
Yep.
Started doing that a long time ago. That saves time, and it just makes sense because that's what they're good at, and let them do that. And I provide that kind of professional service. And so, I mean, just developing in all kinds of different ways, I think.
Yeah, absolutely.
You could probably think of some others too, but that's just some that just kind of come to mind.
So there's a lot there. I think the biggest thing that we realized early on was what you talked about is, identify who you are, where your strengths are. And with you, it's your sphere of influence. It's people that you know, it's people that you had an opportunity to impact over your years as a pastor, people in your church, in your community that know you and like you and trust you and respect you. So I think that's where we shifted and tailored everything around you regarding your sphere. And you've consistently hit $4 million or something very close to it over the last 4 years in a row.
Yeah, yeah, I have, and gonna be right around there this year. And I could really make it a goal to get that higher and higher, but there's a point where, again, the business starts to take over my life, and I want that balance in my life where I'm um, enjoying time with family and friends, and doing some trips and doing some things like I did this summer, going down to West Virginia and doing some whitewater rafting with my son and his family, and camping with them, and doing those kinds of things. Getting out to Iowa for a new grandbaby that was born, and spending time out there. Just all those kinds of things are super important to me. Taking care of my clients is super important as well, and I really focus on making sure that my clients are well taken care of, and then taking care of my family, and being a husband, being a dad to my adult kids and
Yeah.
my grandkids, impacting their life. So it's that constant life and work balance, I think, is really, really important. And because if I start putting too much emphasis on the work and focus there, then it just becomes a black hole that just sucks you in, and I'm not enjoying the journey. And I think that's one
Hmm.
of the things that we've talked about is repeatedly, is how important it is, and for me personally, just to enjoy that journey of taking care of people, serving them, but the journey that God has me on in other areas of my life as well. So it's a constant daily process, really, and weekly process of evaluation. It's not like you just figure it out and it's done. It's a continual work in progress and ebb and flow of life. And yeah, so
It is. Every week there's always something. There's that main thing that we got to work on, which is enjoying the process and keeping that front of mind. But there's always something that comes up throughout the week that we have to work on. And we already have a plan in you for next year. And you had a big dream and goal plan that you put together that we're going to refer to pretty
yeah.
much at the end of every month, really at minimum, because that's the reminding factor for both of us that that's why it is you're doing what you're doing, and reminding you of priorities.
Yeah, definitely. I haven't always done real good with coming up with a dream board like, Chris has talked about. And I have one from several years ago, but this year I definitely put together some dreams and goals, but it's still a work in progress, and it's something I want to refer to, if not daily, but a few times a week, kind of keep myself centered into the bigger picture of life, and what what are my dreams, what are my goals, and what has the Lord put in my heart as
Hmm.
well to do, and to be. And I have that written out so that I can change and add things. And one of the things that I did last week was with my wife, was sat down, and we talk through those things, because it's really when you're married, it should be a combined dreams and goals. It's just not me, obviously it's what do we want to do together, and in terms of things we want to do together, maybe special vacations,
Hmm.
um, and trips to be with our kids or with our kids, together, like a big family vacation, which all that takes some planning and forethought, and if we're just living day to day today, then we miss out on those things because those things take time as well. Or just things around the home that we kind of want to improve. And there's some things my wife has been wanting for a few years, and she doesn't ask for a lot, but I know, there's some improvements we want to make there. And so to keep that in front of me, and that is partly a motivator, obviously, but it keeps you focused too on the bigger picture of life.
So how long have you and Karen been married?
Well, we celebrated 35 years last year, so I guess 36.
Wow. So 36 years being with somebody. I mean, how does that work? Like, what advice do you have? I'd love to hear
Mm,
from you. I'm still single. I'm still, obviously looking. So, what advice would you
mm.
give to someone who's either just starting on a relationship or looking for something? Like, what? 36 years, that's a long time.
Yeah. Well, I mean, for me, a foundation is, both of us, and I was looking for this in someone, and I found it in Karen, was a life that's built on the Lord and Christ and his principles on the solid rock that Jesus talks about. Because you got to have that spiritual basis, and then some common dreams and goals, and maybe like some different things, but also there's a lot of things that maybe you like together. That's obviously important too. You want to be kind of liking some of the same things. And But that's to me a key foundation there, and then to be able to build on that and build that into any children. And we have 4 kids, and so to build into their lives that way as well gives you a solid foundation. And then good communication is really
Mm,
really important, and honesty in the relationship, and yeah, just having an openness together, and forgiveness because you're going to fail.
yeah.
And I think of 1 Corinthians 13 in the Bible. It talks about love is patient, love is kind, and all these things that are listed there. And love is not just a feeling, it's or an emotion, but it is a commitment to be kind and patient. And I don't do it right all the time. I fail, but there is forgiveness both ways, and you work through those things. And yeah,
How long did it take you to figure out that she was the one?
I knew the day I met her. No,
Really?
no,
I was gonna say, really?
no. She was actually working in my office. I was chief security at the time down in Indiana at a college and seminary. I was in seminary. She was in college, and she got a job working in the office there. And I did take notice of her,
Oh, I'm sure.
and she did a great job typing out my memos to my guys, and just the relationship. I could just see I had interest there right away, and I think being in my blue uniform there just helped
Oh, I'm sure.
for
Right.
her. But it just kind of grew, and I again asked her questions, just seeing where her relationship with the Lord was. For me, that was really important, and was she open to doing whatever God wanted us to do?
Mm,
So yeah, just developed from there. But
it's beautiful. So now, you have kids, grandkids, and
mhm.
dealt with obviously a lot of people. Do you think that those same moral values and standards and ethics are similar or aligned with your generation to mine, or do you think it's different?
I think things have changed, and I mean, just parenting has changed a lot. Um, and we've tried to build into other parents things that we've learned, through the years. I worked in youth ministry as a pastor down in Indiana, and I realized how important it was to build into parents because they have a key role in shaping them morally, spiritually, and work ethic wise as well. And a lot of parents just don't have the example to follow. And I think there's just been erosion of that. And so you have instead of a parent controlled home, you have a child controlled home, and it's almost like they're fearful of their kids to say no to them,
Mm.
and teach them self control and wisdom and responsibility. And those were three key things that we focused on with our kids in our family, is teaching them those things to make them mature adults,
Yeah.
And so a lot of parents don't have those goals, it's just to have fun, to enjoy them, and to try to keep them from frustrating them,
Yeah. Yeah.
And so with that erosion has led to, an erosion of morals in our society, lots of things, that have deteriorated, including work ethic. And that's why I've appreciated you as a younger guy, that you're a hard worker. You're committed to taking care of people and working hard. And we tried to build that into our kids, but unfortunately, I know a lot of employers out there and people that own businesses have a hard time finding good workers.
Yep.
So I think that's definitely been an erosion of that work ethic too.
Oh, I see it.
And social media, as well as, it can be good for us. It can really help our, get our name out there and communicate with people in a unique way, especially in real estate. There's lots of positives, but it comes with a lot of, concerns as well, because a lot of young people are relying on social media for those relationships, and there's a hollowness there. It's not the real thing, and so I'm concerned about this next generation too, that are, and then couples and marriages and kids that are on their phones so much, and they're not communicating eye to eye and heart to heart. And that's, it's something we have to be intentional about and work. Parents need to work at, and because they shouldn't be on their phones so much that their kids are really crying out for attention from mom and dad. So
Yeah.
so it's something we really need to protect ourselves from and be careful with.
Well, I think the biggest thing is just being conscious of it, which I think more people are.
Mhm.
But yeah, back to the work ethic thing. I mean, it's crazy because I have people my age too that I don't have a lot of friends my age just because we don't have a lot in
Mhm.
common. But some that I do or some that I know, there's no work ethic, there's no drive, there's no
Right.
nothing. And I think you're right. It leads to, having that strong example growing up. And obviously, both my parents are incredibly hard workers, but my
Mhm.
dad, I mean, people know me. I know he's in the construction business. He was a roofer, right? And so it doesn't matter if it was 10 degrees out and it was snowing, or if it was 110 degrees out. He was on that roof every single day, showing up, going to work. And even with that being said, I have two brothers. He never missed a game ever. He was
Mhm.
always there. He was always working, but he led by example. He never really told us. You could see it. I can see what it is to be a hard worker, a strong man. Like, this is the example that was set. So a lot of people maybe don't get that, which is unfortunate, or maybe they
Mhm.
do get it and they just stray away from it for whatever reason. But
Right.
it's noticeable, and it needs to be addressed, because that's a whole generation of people that need to pick up the slack once the older generation, phases out and retires, and they're in golden years.
Yep. Yeah, for sure. I think it's that example that speaks a lot louder than just words. I mean, it's seeing it, it's watching it. Parents who want their kids to be involved with the church, and but they're not faithful and they're not involved and not mimicking those things at home. I mean, it just erodes what they're trying to teach.
Hmm.
We learn a lot by the examples that are in front of us. Especially parents.
Absolutely.
So I haven't met your dad, but I'm I can tell he's impacted your life,
Oh,
and
big
I'm
time.
sure your mom is as well. But that father figure has a great impact.
He does. It was an interesting dynamic
Mm.
too, because my mom was the enforcer. My mom was, if punishment needed to
Mhm.
be doled out, that
Mhm.
came from her. He never really needed to, and he's like, first of all, anyone he talks to likes him because he just talks. He's a people person. He's interested in
Right.
people.
Right.
He needs to look out for himself more, which I've told him, because he's too generous and kind. But he never really yelled. Never really. It was just by example. You could see it, like you
Right.
knew,
Yep.
right? But no, if there was The punishment came from my mom. So, but we knew not the way to behave, way not to behave.
Right.
So yeah, it lasted all three of us. So I mean, that's why me and my two brothers are the way we are now.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. That's wonderful.
Yeah, it is. So invaluable.
Mm.
So looking at value, because I know there's a lot commissions and all that stuff, and we've talked about a little bit, but you have no problem saying, no, my commission is 6% because this is the value that I offer and it all stems from your customer service.
It does. It does. Because I work hard for my clients. I'm committed to giving them exceptional service. And that takes a lot of time and energy and often sacrifices. And, obviously I'm trying to have that balance. So I'm not sacrificing my health and my family and all, but there are some sacrifices of time. There's a lot of things that go into taking care of people with real estate that people don't really realize.
Mhm.
They think, well, it's just having fun going out showing homes, and that is fun just to get out there. That's probably the least stressful part of the job, but
Right.
but that's I mean, there's just a lot of stresses and pressures and things that can come with getting an offer accepted and negotiating through the whole process and dealing with things from the inspection that might need attention and just the whole 9 yards from contract to close. So there's a lot of work, and I do put a high premium on good communication and taking care of my clients. So it's just like anything. You get what you pay for, right?
Yep. Yep.
And so I feel like my service is a get what you pay for kind of service, like in terms of good service and really taking care of them. And so, yeah, and so I do that 6% and share 3% with the buyers agents, on homes, because that's what makes sense, and that helps them get the most for their home as well, as we've talked about, because now you're offering out 3% to the buyer's agent, which motivates them, which helps the sale of the home. And, and so they're not kind of pushing somebody else's house.
Hmm.
They're moving towards you because you're a professional.
Yes.
And I think that's just all part of being a professional. It's not just about me and what I get at the end. It's really about them. And like we've talked about, they end up getting the best possible outcome that way.
Yep.
So it only makes sense. And same thing on the buyer side. I do buyer contracts for 3% because that's what I work for. And I provide them with that full 3% service, And so if another agent's list offering out less than 3%, because they've done a discount commission,
Hmm.
then my buyers know up front that they're going to help make up the difference. Which again, that's the thing that can help hurt the seller's side, because
Hmm.
I've had some that are much lower and they're like, no, we're not interested in even seeing it. It's because of the way that's being promoted, so, and marketed. So I match that commission with that commitment to serve them, and they know that, and they know me, like me, trust me, and they want that kind of service.
Yeah.
So it just makes sense.
It does. And two of the most important things regarding your marketing, one is the price. Obviously, it's got to be priced right.
Hmm.
And then two is the buyer agent's commission, because you have to entice them to come in and want to show your
Absolutely,
property, right?
absolutely, yep, for
And
sure.
it's funny too, because even when you're showing that's offering out 2.5, 2.75, 2%, whatever it is, I know you've told me some of your buyers even say, well, hey, don't worry about it. We'll make up the difference because you earn that 3% because of the service you offer.
Yeah, absolutely. And I just tell them when we come up to a home, or ahead of time, so they know that it's being offered out less than that 3%. But they're committed to taking care of me too. It's a mutual commitment
It is.
to each other,
It is.
and so a- and I'm serving a lot of my friends, and even, I mean, my daughter and son-in-law, they wanted to make sure I had 3%. It's like, Dad, you work hard for us. So, I mean, the people that want your service are going to want to see that you're taken care of too.
Yep.
You know,
Absolutely.
and at least they should. I mean, that's just the way to be kind and treat one another, right?
You would think, yeah.
So, and the end result is they get the best possible service.
Yep. So another
Yeah.
big factor of your business, which you've really narrowed down and gotten really good at, is pricing and pricing it aggressively. Because I know this year
Mm.
you've had multiple situations where they maybe want to start a little bit higher. You talked to them, well, you didn't talk, you educated them as to where they need to be, and you ended up in a multiple offer, highest and best situation.
Yeah, because we've talked about many times, and I've seen it over and over. And one of my principles I talk about with my sellers in properly pricing a home is understanding how leverage works. And usually they don't understand that until I explain to them that, the more time you have on the market, and if you have to do price reductions, people start wondering what's wrong with the home, and, it's just overpriced. And so who do you give the leverage to? The buyers, because now you're just hoping for one offer to come in. Whereas if you list it at a realistic competitive price, at market value, or sometimes even under a little bit, people get out there, and at the end of the day, it's gonna, like we've talked about, a home is gonna sell for what it's worth.
Mm-hmm.
So if it's way overpriced, well, no showings, and eventually you bring it down. And often I think you end up getting less than you could have if you properly priced it. Whereas if you price it properly and buyers get out there and a lot of interest, and it's early on in the game, especially if you get multiple offers, then the seller's in control,
Mm-hmm.
and they can pick which offer is the best. And often they can leverage it up, or the offers leverage themselves up with, some kind of escalation clause or something like that. So yeah, I did that with my uncle's home recently, and we ended up with 10 offers after 3.5 days. And my attorney trustee, who was handling the estate for my uncle, I mean, he had 10 offers to pick from, and they all kind of worked each other up, and so we ended up, well, we lost a couple buyers because of inspection things, and that's another story for another
Yeah.
time. But at the end of the day, and we did a second round. The second round, we had 7 offers. Some of them came back again, but we ended up with the highest price that we could possibly get. It worked out really great. So, but giving your clients options of which is the best price and terms, because it's not just the price, there's terms and conditions. This one's waiving the inspection. This one wants the inspection. This one has an appraisal guarantee. This one doesn't. And I know the market's changing some, and maybe things are calming down that way, but we're still seeing it. I just saw that with my uncle's house this fall,
Yep.
month and a half ago. We just closed about a month ago. So those principles are true, I think, in any market,
They are.
So yeah. So it works out to the best of your sellers to market it that way and properly price a home. And so I just present them with the information and talk about how the market works. I always say there's 3 things you need to understand in order to properly price a home. And one thing you need to remember, you have to understand, first of all, the current market. So I always present to them, here's what's going on with the current market. Is it a seller's market, which it still is?
Mm-hmm.
How much, what's the inventory, all these kinds of things, help them understand it. And then understanding how buyers determine value. And so we talk about that. And then thirdly, understanding how leverage works. And then remembering that it needs to appraise most of the time, unless it's a cash offer. But helping them understand those things and how the market works, and how to properly price a home with all those things in mind, I think really, really helps my sellers make an educated decision,
That's our job.
Yeah, looking at comps and doing that market analysis together, and not just throwing out a number and saying, well, this is what you should do.
Right. Which most real agents do.
Yeah, that's, I think the way we do it and the way I do it here is a very professional way to do it. It gives them the information to make good decisions, because that's our job.
It is. It is.
so we can help them find good success.
Absolutely. So, wrapping up here, what last piece of advice or information, or anybody that's watching, whether they're new, experienced, or whatever it is, what would you like to throw out there for them?
Wow, that's a good question.
Kind
Kind
of
of a
putting you on the
broad one
spot.
then.
Yeah, right.
um, yeah. So you think of real estate or family or just anything here? Or
Maybe anything that you found or came across this year, self-discovered, that helped you, that maybe you can help somebody else with.
enjoying the journey, which is a big theme that I've been just working on. If we're not enjoying the journey of life or work, why? What's going on deeper inside? And we go through different phases in life and different chapters and changes. I was a pastor for many, many years, youth pastor, and then a lead pastor at a church. And those were great years. And I enjoyed what I was doing, and it came with challenges. But felt like my ministry was fulfilled where I was at, and that God had something else for me to do. And I felt Him in senses leading into this, helping people and serving people in this way and ministering to them along the way, because that's how I approach it as well. But I think enjoying that journey, and if you're not, ask those hard questions and take time to ponder and seek help and some counsel from someone. Because if we're not enjoying the journey, everything just kind of falls apart.
It does.
And this job comes with its lots of stresses. It's not just out there fun showing homes. There's lots of challenges and problems. We've talked about it often that we're problem solvers in this business. So that comes with stress, right? But most of us all have one level of stress or another. If you have any responsibilities whatsoever, you've got pressures, and sometimes this job, you got lots of clients you're serving, lots of things going on at once, and it's kind of hard to balance it all. But learning to give everyone and everything to the Lord, for me, is really important, and really trusting in Him and acknowledging Him in all my ways. And I've had to work through some things, because we all do, at one stage or another. There's shifts and things that come at us, and emotional things like the loss of a grandbaby, like we experienced this summer, that affect you. And so ask those questions why, and make 2024 a better year, a great year, by having a right foundation. And for me and for everyone, it really needs to be in the Lord and a relationship with Him. So that's what keeps me going.
I love it. Great answer. You're natural at this, by the way. But yeah, I think just building on your point is, which I try and press upon you and everybody else, is you got to give yourself some grace.
Yes.
You got to give yourself some grace. Understand that everyone is a work in progress. We're all working on ourselves to get better. And even though you may not be exactly where you're at now, most important is just you're taking one step closer to get there.
Yeah. I think we can all be hard on ourselves at one point or another. But, yeah, we need to give ourselves grace, and that's what God does.
Absolutely. So, Jim, thank you so much. You were awesome. It was great. Let us know if you enjoyed it. Give us a thumbs up and a comment. We love to hear from you. And we wish you guys all a happy holiday.
Yep. Merry Christmas and Happy New Year, and celebrate the birth of Christ.
Thanks, guys.
Bye-bye.